Metabolism of Carbohydrates to Harvest ATP, Electrons, and Carbon by Amanda Doig. Metabolism of sugar starts off with glycolysis, which does not require oxygen in order for it to function properly. After glycolysis, the output will either go through respiration, which is an aerobic process, meaning it needs oxygen in order to function, or it will go through fermentation, which is an anaerobic process, meaning there is no oxygen available. Glycolysis starts off with a carbohydrate molecule. This molecule then splits up into separate glucose molecules. After it's in the form of glucose, ATP will donate a phosphate group, which releases ADP, and this will occur twice so that there is a phosphate group on both ends of the glucose molecule. After it reaches this stage, it will break into two separate molecules. After it is into two small molecules, it then goes through multiple processes until it reaches pyruvic acid. The input for glycolysis is 2 ATP, and the output is 4 ATP, which creates a net 2 ATP. It also produces many electrons. Respiration. Respiration happens if oxygen is available. It starts off with the pyruvic acid from the glycolysis. It then goes to the Krebs cycle, electron transport system, and ATP synthase. In the Krebs cycle, 2 ATP are produced and many electrons are produced. The electrons from the Krebs cycle go through the electron transport system and into ATP synthase, which creates 32 ATP. Fermentation occurs when there is no oxygen available. In fermentation, there are two main types. There's lactic acid fermentation and alcoholic fermentation. Lactic acid fermentation starts off with pyruvic acid from the glycolysis. NADH then donates a hydrogen to it and releases NAD, which produces lactic acid. In alcoholic fermentation, you start off with the pyruvic acid from glycolysis, and NADH donates a hydrogen and releases NAD, just like lactic acid fermentation. But in alcoholic fermentation, CO2 is also released, and it creates ethanol. In summary, carbohydrates go through glycolysis to create pyruvic acid. This pyruvic acid will then either go through respiration or fermentation. Respiration is the aerobic process, meaning oxygen is needed for this to run properly, and fermentation is an anaerobic process, meaning that there is no oxygen available. If it goes through respiration, a lot of ATP are produced, and if it goes through fermentation, either lactic acid or ethanol can be produced.